Hey, y'all. Welcome back to the Reset with Raven podcast. Of course, I'm Raven M. Harris, your host, and I am grateful that you are here. Today, you're in for a not so average podcast, and you'll hear a little bit later why I said that. Today's guest is Jessica. Jessica's unique approach to life design, which infuses lessons from her own minimalism journey, completely transformed her life. She went from overworked and overwhelmed to living a life that she had only dreamed of. Through her journey, she's learned there are three things we need to create a fulfilling life: clarity, intention, and alignment. Welcome, Jessica.
Thank you so much for having me.
I am excited you are here. Jessica, we're going to hop right into it. I just want to know, at what point in your life did you realize you wanted or maybe even needed a change? What were you doing? What age were you? And what just clicked for you when it came to like designing a life that you dreamed of?
Yeah, that's such an interesting question because I feel like it happened in waves. And I think a lot of people experience this. I think for me, the first time I ever felt like I really wanted to do something different, I was in college. I've been an academic performer my whole life, top of my class in high school, top of my class college, got the job at the big company. Like I did all the things, I checked all the boxes. And after I finished my time in college, I actually thought I just am so tired and burnt out. I don't know that I want to go into corporate right now. I don't know that that's really where I want to spend my time and my energy. But there was also a track I was supposed to be on, so I didn't really feel like that was acceptable. So I did what I thought I was supposed to do, went to corporate, got the job, and all of those things. But that was one of the first times I think there was a part of me that just felt like I've been on this consistent path, but there's something in me that's just it's bigger than what I think I'm capable of, or bigger than the life that I feel is expected of me. So that was the first time, but I let it, go back down. I buried it deep in there, got the corporate job, right? And in corporate America, that's when it came up again. When I got my very first role, I had been in the role maybe about a year when I realized, okay, I really, really want to do something different. I know that I want to pursue entrepreneurship. I have no idea what that's going to look like. I have no idea what kind of business I would run, but I just know that this path that I'm on, it isn't really for me. I want to have more control over the life that I create. And where I was at that point in my life, I just realized I can't do that by staying here. I have to build my own thing and also launch it and curate it and build something around it.
As you're talking, it's like you're my, what is the term, sister from a
From
different.
another mister.
I did all the things and checked the boxes, and yet I realized I can't do this any longer. I'm in this corporate job, and I've used the term like success on paper because that's
Hmm.
how I felt. Like, okay, well, you have this title, you have these accomplishments, you have these degrees, but I know, like, in every piece of my soul, spirit, body, like from the point that even like I noticed, like, just going to work and going in certain environments, I could feel it all over, like a
Yeah.
physiological response. Like, you're not supposed to be here. Like, I know, like, the pay, it sounds good, the title, it sounds good, but like every piece of me felt out of alignment. And
Yes.
I
Yeah.
just can completely relate to that. So my next question was, okay, so you felt all these things, you start experiencing these things, or the things that maybe you had buried or kind of pushed down, it's
Hmm.
coming back up. Now what?
Hmm. Then it was time to figure out, okay, so what do you want? I think that the first time I did it, I didn't understand those three keys that you mentioned in the introduction, clarity, intention, alignment. So I focused on what I just didn't like about my life. It was like, okay, I'm unhappy. Yes, I'm making, nearly six figures. Yes, I have this great job, big company, 401k, all the stuff, nice apartment, all those things. But I'm just so unhappy. And I felt like my job was the root cause. So I led with that. Okay, then I just need to get a new job. And I don't really love the city that I'm in. So I just need to get to a new city. If I can do those two things, then I could be happy. And I did that. And then I got a new job. I got more money. I got a new city. And I was just as unhappy. And that's when I realized, you know what? I have to figure out what I truly want. Like, what is it that I really want to create? What do I feel that I'm really here for? What is it that I'm supposed to be doing that would make me feel not just happy? Because I think happy is it's fleeting. Happiness is fleeting, but fulfillment is something that's I think very tangible. And that's what I started thinking about. What does it look like for me to be fulfilled? What are the things that I truly want? And that's when I started thinking more deeply about just the vision for my life and subsequently taking steps that I thought would help me build that. In the vision for my life, I was an entrepreneur and I was going to homeschool my kids and all these different things. And I realized being on this corporate track, at least the way that I am right now, that's not going to get me there. Right now I'm focused on getting a master's degree so I can get promoted. And it's like, why do I want to be promoted and have to fight for maternity leave if ultimately I want to be a stay-at-home mom? Why do I want to keep moving up the ranks in corporate and take on more responsibility in this company when I really want to launch a business? So it really just shifted my focus and gave me the opportunity to create room for the things that I wanted. I didn't leave my job right away, but I realized some of these goals I've been focused on, I need to put those on hold so I can really focus on the thing that I feel is important to me.
That's good. As you were talking about, why do I want to get the master's degree? Why do I want to climb the corporate ladder? Again, it made me think about my own journey and the really critical points in it. And also, too, one thing I'd like to really focus on is when you started questioning those things, like
Mhm.
not only deciding what you want, then asking yourself, well, why do you want that?
Mhm. Yeah. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I was going to say, like, I feel like in society, we're told, taught, conditioned,
Mhm.
programmed, trained, whatever term you want to put on it, that this is supposed to be the path. And then
Mhm.
when you start questioning this ideal path, this American dream, and you're like, well,
Mhm.
it doesn't line up with my vision for my life. And I feel like you had something you were about to say. Go for it.
Yeah, that was something that I had to really think about to your point. Like, and I realized, well, because I've always done what other people said was good for me, and it worked out in the sense of I got the grades, I got the high paying job, and that's a checkbox, right? So it's like other people know best, people who are wiser than me, older than me, right? I just always assumed that they knew what was best. And I realized that was just a pattern across my life. And I don't know, I can't say that that's true for you or for all of your listeners, but when I started asking that why, it was that realization that like I hadn't really learned how to trust myself. I didn't really believe that I had the maybe the credibility to decide what was best. And so I always just left that to another person. Normally my parents, right? If my parents said I should do it, I did it. But there were also other adult figures in my life that I just thought they knew what was best. And so that's why I think I buried that feeling early on in my life because I just assumed like there's no way that what I'm feeling could be the best thing. Other people who I trust, they know what's best. Why would I go against that?
That's a good point when we talk about like parents or just people that are elders in our lives that give us advice or suggestions. And oftentimes we're repeating patterns or they're just sharing what they know or their experience. And I was listening to something a couple of weeks ago, and this guy used a term. He said, before you take advice or suggestions from people, think about, are they proven?
Mm,
And it made me start thinking about that. Like when you're even your parents and your family members or adults or older people in your life, it's like, well, is that how you want to live. You see what they're showcasing. Is that the exact same thing that you want? And
Hmm.
for a while, for me, it was challenging for me to say, I don't want that
Hmm.
because of maybe blowback, because of my own personal insecurities, what people may think. And even now, like, again, it's important to protect your vision and protect things that are important to you, because there will be people in your family, friends, that because the vision was not given to them, it's not their assignment. When you say, I'm interested in XYZ, immediately they shut it down because you
Hmm.
just can't relate. Or it could just be, and this is just, I feel like this is like my own like venting session right now. It could be they've not experienced that before. They've never had
Hmm.
exposure to that before. So when you
Hmm.
say that, it like disrupts everything in them, or even maybe challenges what they think is even possible.
Yes, absolutely. I think for me, there are so many things you said in there that I felt were true. I think in relation to my family, specifically my parents, I'm an only child. So it's always been like Three Musketeers, right? It's us. And I think that's why it was so important for me to follow what they suggested, because it was like it's just us, and they've always guided me, and it's always worked out, right, in terms of checking the boxes. And I think for a while I felt this sense of guilt, like if I decide that I want something different, and again, for me, something different is anything other than what my parents told me, what does that say about what I think about them? What are they going to think I think, right? Are they going to think that I don't respect them, or that I don't think that they're wise? I there were just so many hoops in my mind I had to jump through, and just realize like it doesn't actually mean any of that, but that was tough for me. And then when it came to friends and friends of the family, I think it was what you mentioned about the blowback, right? Like, what are people going to say? Are they going to encourage me? Are they going to discourage me? And I had to realize, just like you said, it's they don't have that vision, and sometimes they don't have enough experience to really know this is good or bad. It's just people's instinct, I think, to want to keep you safe, which means we need to be similar, because how can I keep you safe if I don't know the experience that you're getting ready to embark upon? You know what I mean? And I think that's what it comes back to a lot of times, when we always hear these quotes about like, your parents are trying to keep you safe, the people you love are trying to keep you safe, especially in the world of entrepreneurship. People don't always encourage it. And it's like, I think that part of that feeling of keeping you safe is, if you go and do something I've never done, how could I ever guide you? How could I provide any opinion or support or whatever the case might be? Because I haven't actually walked that path.
I'm also an only child, so everything you're saying, it's like, yep, true,
We're
true,
twins.
true. It to your point, when it's only the three of us, it's that for years, or for my entire life, we move as a unit.
Yeah.
And when I've had different experiences or exposure to things, or I have different dreams, to your point, that's not something that they have experience in. So how can I guide you or lead you when I don't know how that works out? And I even had, the comment made, well, what's your fallback
Oh
plan?
yeah.
Yeah, what if this doesn't work out? And and what I, and only through just some, again, more living, and I'm grateful from that, just life experiences, where I was like, everybody's stuff could not work out. Even, that, if we've seen anything from this pandemic, like, nothing's promised. You don't know how tomorrow's going to be for you either.
For
You don't
sure.
know that you're going to have that steady, that you think is steady, reliable, quote unquote, safe job. That may not be there tomorrow either. So I just did a recording. I have to say this, and this guy made the comment. He said, "Every day you wake up, it's like hitting the lottery. It's a new opportunity, it's a new chance, but it's not promised to any of us."
Nope.
So even working through that, like, other people are outside noise, or other people's expectations, and quote unquote, what's your fallback plan? It's like, no, this is, I feel like Will Smith said something about plan B only distracts from plan
From
A.
plan A.
This
Yep.
this is the plan. This is what I'm excited about. And I'm human, and I recognize that life is like this. So even though I have a plan, there are curveballs, pit holes, all types of things along the way.
Yep.
But when you get anchored in what, this is what is for me, this is my vision, this is what, and become unrelenting about it, it's like, you know what, it's easier to try to block out the noise. But
Yeah.
it's still, when it's family, when it's friends, when it's people you respect and love, it's still a challenge.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think what I've learned, and I'm sure we'll talk about this, I did van life, I left my job, I did all of these things. It is going to fail. I mean, nothing is perfect. Like, it is going to fail in some way, shape, or form. It's not going to go the way that you thought it would. But that taught me how to reframe failure in my mind. I think of failure as insight. I'm afraid of insight. That would be weird. But we always say, I'm so afraid to fail. And it's like, why? All you're going to do is gain information that you can use to build the path forward, right? So as opposed to thinking of it as like, it failed, it's more, I learned something. I learned something, and now I can continue on. Like, I think failure is the true mark of success, because it's like, I did it. There's a lot of people not doing it, and that's, because they're avoiding failure, but you're just learning, and then you build something greater from there.
Yes, so good, so good. Makes me think about, it's all like nothing ventured, nothing gained. No,
Mhm.
no risk, no reward. In order
Mhm.
to know, you have to do. And I want to make sure we circle back around this, because I also quit my job and recently re-entered quote unquote corporate America, the
Me too.
workforce again, and have learned so much in that process. And I remember initially looking at it as like, oh my gosh, you're going into entrepreneurship, still there. But I remember thinking, oh, this didn't work in my timeline the way I thought it would work. And I initially saw it as failure. And in
Mhm.
hindsight, I realized, no, you just learned so many things. And I'm so grateful, Jessica, for you being here and sharing your story and letting people know, like, people, you go through so many iterations. It is not failure. Everyone's timing is different, and all of this is just, it's part of the process.
Yep.
And you alluded to it, and we have to talk about it because this is so interesting to me. Tell us about quitting your job and then also van life. We got to make sure we revisit this, like, cool
Yes.
coming back into the workforce too.
Yes, yes, absolutely. So yeah, so after I decided, to focus on the vision, I built my company, Nacho Average Pro. Again, a reference to the intro, and I just started just figuring out, like, okay, what do I want to do? What do I bring to the table? What do I want to talk to people about? So I started talking about minimalism, because part of my journey was that learning how to let go. Learning how to let go of the idea that I didn't know what's best, or that I couldn't trust my own instincts, that I had to delegate that to other people. So I started decluttering, and I let go of, I mean, probably 85% of my possessions. And that taught me so much about my, not just ability, but capability to choose for myself, like, what is best, and really trusting that I know that. And I decided to share that journey on social media. And that was the beginning of Nacho Average Pro. It was just a weekly live video series, Minimalism Monday. And it grew. As I grew a following, I built an email list, I was blogging, I had products. And so after I started building this community, I realized, like, okay, this is like a real thing. People are interested in what I have to say. And honestly, when I left my job, my business was not covering my bills. I was just so excited about the fact that I had created this community, that I knew, like, you have something. And I think for me, leaving my job was going back to that idea, like, trust your gut, just trust your instincts, know that you're on the right path, you'll figure it out. When it comes to van life, sometimes I look back on that experience and I just think, like, wow, you really did that. You were really cooking over a fire. I set a table on fire early on by accident, because I didn't know what I was doing. But I learned, like I said, you fail, you learn, and you go on and you get better. So yeah, it was my fiance, he was from Colorado, so he was used to doing a lot of more outdoorsy things. And I'm so thankful for that. Like if it had just been me by myself, I probably would have set the van on fire, to be honest. Like I should not have been out there by myself. But with another person, we definitely could figure it out. So it was a great experience for sure.
Kudos to you. I feel like that's a friend of mine has a podcast about checking things off your bucket list. He calls himself the crosser offer. So, like, kudos for you for just doing the darn thing because that
Hmm.
is like so cool, and especially in the midst of like the pandemic. I guess you were like, well, we out here now. We've already
Yeah.
started.
Yeah.
Might as well just go for it. And was the name of this community that you built as you were like, I guess, vlogging this? Is
Yeah.
this the Nacho Average, or is that something different?
No, so Not Your Average Fro just is my business name. It started
Okay.
well before the van came into place. It was what's funny is before it was called Not Your Average Fro, I had a blog about Tex-Mex food. And so it was called Tex-Mex with Jess. And when I started transitioning into talking about minimalism, I wanted something that captured like my interests around food and all this different stuff, but also I really felt like I was stepping into my own. And when I was in corporate, I was not really what's the word I want to use? I wasn't applauded for wearing my natural hair, and so I went through that struggle at the same time. So, Not Your Average Fro was really an ode to just me, like being authentically myself. I love Tex-Mex food, so it's spelled Nacho. There's a nacho in my hair in the logo, and I hadn't always felt comfortable in my own skin, and so my fro is a reflection of that authenticity.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. So tell us about I know one of your focuses and what you have workshops and trainings and you coach people on now is decluttering. So talk
Hmm.
to us about like your minimalism journey more with yourself, and you talked about it a little bit earlier. But talked about us about like the transition from, or if there is a transition and maybe they're the same, the
Hmm.
difference between minimalism and decluttering, and how you realize that clutter was such an important thing to focus on, and why there's a need for people to be coached or taught or educated or informed about clutter.
Yeah. So, going back to what I'd mentioned about, needing to learn how to let go, learning to let go of this belief that I didn't know what was best or that I should delegate that to people who were older, maybe wiser, that I had respect for. I needed to let that go. And I think that that's what decluttering teaches you. Whether you do it in your house or you do it in any aspect of your life, it's about building a skill or a confidence around letting go of what doesn't serve you so you can step into the life that you really desire to create and go after, those dreams that you have. And so for me, I didn't know that minimalism was going to lead down this path. I really just had reached a point where I felt like, what, it couldn't get any worse than where I'm at. I was at this job, I was unhappy, I was overweight, and I was looking for a way to identify, like, how do I really step into the life that I want? And it just seemed like, well, I've read so many great stories about people living with less and then having the freedom to create the life that they desire. I might as well try it. So I had no idea where it was going to take me, but it truly did change my life. And what I've realized through this journey is that I didn't necessarily have to become a minimalist. I think that it has served me. If I hadn't become a minimalist, I probably never would have considered living out of a van. I would have had too much stuff. But I realized that it was really about learning that skill of learning how to let go. How do I let go of the things that are not good for me, are not supporting me in the life that I desire, are not helping me to achieve my goals? Because it's not ever going to be easy. If you want to be an entrepreneur, it's never going to be easy to walk away from your job. It's never going to be easy to walk away from a relationship. It's never going to be like, anytime you have to move on from something to move into greater heights, it's never going to be easy. So what I love about learning how to declutter is that you build that confidence. And when you do it in your home, you build that confidence with something that doesn't get to like talk back to you. If I give these books away, like that book's not going to turn around and be like, well, you really should keep this book, and here's all the reasons why, and I gave you this book. But when it got time to leave my job, those were real. I had to have conversations with people in my life. And when you declutter in your home, it's just a conversation with yourself, and you build that kind of courage to say, yeah, this is really what I want. And the more courageous you are, the more confident you become. And that transfers into every single aspect of your life. So that's why I teach decluttering. I'm not interested, I should say, in people becoming minimalists, although they could using this skill. I just want them to have the confidence to say, I'm going to let this go because there's something greater that I desire. And I have to have room for that in my life in order to step into it.
Hmm. And would you say that while you were on the van, courage and confidence is something that you built in yourself? Is there something else that you feel that you really learned or discovered about you during that time?
Yeah, I think it was courage and confidence. And I think it was also validation in a sense. Like, okay, you spent all these years building up to this big moment of leaving your job and living out of the van. And it was such an amazing experience that it felt like, and you were right. Like, you were right to do this. Everybody didn't agree. Everybody wasn't on board. My mom was not happy about it. I thought she was going to burst into tears the day we told her we were going to live out of a van. It did not go over well at all. But, it was like, but you persevered through that, and you had this like amazing life experience. No one can ever take that from you. And the lessons that I learned were just invaluable. So I think it was that validation of like, you've been building up to this point, trusting yourself, trusting yourself, trusting yourself. And you took this big leap, and it was amazing. Like, why couldn't you take more leaps in your life that also turn out to be amazing?
Hmm. So what's going on now? What's life post van and current
Yeah.
day?
So now, still doing a little bit of nomadic living out of Airbnbs. I was going to buy a condo. The housing market is so crazy. I was like, what, let me take a step back. Like, I haven't been back home. I'm from Dallas. I haven't been back home in such a long time that I really don't even know the city that well. Like, where would I even really want to live? I was using price as the marker. Well, this is what I could afford, so this is what I'm going to go after. But where do I even actually want to be? And so now, living out of Airbnbs around the city, kind of figuring out like, what neighborhood do I enjoy? What things do I want to be close to? And I think that goes back to, you had asked something, and I don't think I addressed this. You had asked like, what role does clutter play in everything? Clutter is a reflection of, or I should say this, stuff is a reflection of our mindset. Clutter is a reflection of our limiting beliefs, and everything else is a reflection of the supportive thoughts or supportive beliefs that encourage us to work towards our goals. So the benefit of decluttering is that you stop living in and operating in environments that reflect back your limiting beliefs, right? So long as I was living in a house day in and day out that reflected that I couldn't trust my own instincts, I just wouldn't. And I didn't, right? Like, everything in my home, we don't always see it this way, just looking at our stuff. But when you start decluttering, you realize like, so many of the things I gave away were things that other people said I should have. I had a 28-piece glass set in my kitchen. My mom told me I should get it. I got it. Who else to better advise me on building a home than my mom? But the reality is, like, I don't ever have that many people at my house. I don't even really want to host dinner parties. Like, that's just not who I am. And so I let that go. Clothes that people had bought for me that I only held on to because they bought them for me. And I felt like, oh, it was a gift. I should hold on to this. So it was like, throughout every single part of my home, it was like, here is something that reflects back this belief that I can't trust my own instincts. I can't choose for myself what I really want. And that's the power of letting go and curating an environment, whatever that environment is, that reflects back what you know to be true, right? Or what you desire to believe. And so now, fast forward, now living in the Airbnb, I feel like I get to really maximize on that. I have so little things that everything fits in my car. So it truly is this opportunity to say, like, where do I want to live? What do I want to be by? What hobbies do I want to engage in? Like, I get to start with what I truly want. And now I'm just testing that out, bouncing around to different places and seeing what feels right and what fits for me before I make a decision, which I feel in the past, it was the opposite. Other people were telling me and I didn't really test it. I just jumped into it and then I was committed to it. And now it's like, I start with what I want. I try it out. I see if I like it. Van life was an experiment, just like this Airbnb living is an experiment. And that's just how I look at my life. Like, I'm always in a state of experimentation and I have the flexibility to do that because I'm not carrying physical stuff or mental baggage everywhere that I go.
Has there been anything along this journey that you've realized you don't want to live without or you can't live without?
Hmm. Um, yeah, I think so. Like, I didn't realize it, but I actually love being in nature. Van life showed me that. I can't live without like natural light. I've lived in a couple places this year where it was like living in a prison cell. I was like, oh no, this next time I will be so much more intentional about making sure that they list natural light in the description or I can see it flooding in. Music, absolutely love music. Friends, family, relationships. Those are the things that are really important. Like, it's just funny, the stuff that you think you need, it's so different when you actually start letting go. Like for me, it's like, oh, I really need a Bluetooth speaker. I realize that I love to listen to music. I love dancing around the apartment. And I haven't had one because I gave it to my dad when we got on the road, and I realized how much I need that. How much I need to be outside. I can't just be indoors all the time. Like, it used to be like, oh, I need this television, and now I'm like, I could care less about that, but there are some things that really make me feel inspired, fulfilled, and happy. And that's what I carry with me.
Mm, mm. What is inspiring you right now? What's most important to you in your life in this moment, in this month? What's important right now?
Yeah, what is most important to me? So we mentioned that I went back to work. So I think that that's a big part of it. I think that I do plan to probably leave my job again, but the first time I left my job, it was just a test of like, does this even work? If I if I wanted to be an entrepreneur, like, do I think I could do it? Do I have the ability? And I learned, yes, I do, and I made money, but it takes money to make money. And when you don't have that corporate job or you don't have backing, you don't have somebody funding it in the background, the money runs out very quickly in the entrepreneurial realm, faster than I knew. And so now it's like, okay, what's inspiring me is that even though it's not going to plan, that vision is still so exciting to me. Like, the vision of what I want to create with my life is what is inspiring me. And so I'm back at work. I actually ended up back at the job that I had before I left. And so it's just like, it feels like a full circle moment. But yeah, that's what's inspiring me. Like, go and get this job, leverage the resources, leverage the money that you're making. I don't have a lot of expenses now, so I could put even more money and energy and effort into the business than I could before the last time. And so that's what's inspiring me to keep going. Like, you have something really great. Now let's put more money and resources behind it and make it even better.
I love that, and I can definitely relate and connect to what you're saying, and that's a similar reason where why I rather rejoined the workforce, because it was one of those things where you need funding to fund your dreams.
Yeah.
And you're an adult, you have to still take care of yourself, and you need something to be able to fuel these things. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's really, to your point, it takes money to make money. So I needed the finances to build the things that I'm truly passionate about. And in the meantime, I'm doing things that are within my wheelhouse,
Mhm.
putting some of these expensive degrees to work. Um, but I also know that, like, I know now more than ever after leaving my job, I know more than ever what I'm passionate about, what I'm purpose for, what interests me, what excites
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't have known that if I didn't take that leap.
Yep.
I knew something was missing. I knew something was not right. I knew I lacked fulfillment, but I was scared to test the waters.
Yeah.
And now I know that, you know what? You quit your job, the world didn't end, you survived, and I have the confidence and courage now that I needed.
Mhm.
And I know I can do it again. So
Absolutely.
I'm very grateful for that, for this experience, and for everything that you're sharing. And we can learn so much from you. And I just want to know, before I ask my final question,
Yeah.
where can our listeners find you online and learn more about how they may be able to work with you or hear about what you have going on in terms of clutter and
Yeah, so you can find me at nachoaveragefro.com. That's NACHO, like the nacho chip, averagefro.com. And using the same handle, you can find me on Instagram at nachoaveragefro.
Perfect, perfect. And the final question is, what is the greatest lesson you've learned in your reset journey?
Mm. Um, you're more capable than you know. That would be the
Mm,
greatest lesson. I didn't realize how capable I was till I left and lived out of a van. And you don't have to live out of a van, you know. I think just the leaving your job like that shows you what you're really made of and how strong you are. I don't think I knew how strong I was until I started making these leaps.
mm. So good, so good. Thank you, Jessica.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
All right. What am I here for? What does it look like for me to be fulfilled? I am so inspired by Jessica. She is truly my sister from a different mister. You are more capable than you know. Until next time, a reset is always available to you.